Hey everyone, Britt and Chris Carmichael here, bringing you the Elevated Life series where we teach you simple mindset shifts to create radical transformation in your life. And if you're someone who is struggling with negative thinking, if you're an overthinker or a worrier or someone who's constantly zip, 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 zip to the next thought, then you are going to love this topic because we're going to be teaching you how to stop negative thinking with our simple NOPE method.
This is something that it seems like we're all plagued by, and if we could change this just a little bit. I mean, think of it. If you're running your normal negativity and you can lower it just by 5% or just by 10%, think about how different your life would be. Think about how different it would be if you just added 10% positivity. Not that like you went and changed all of your thoughts and everything was positive all the time. We're not trying to achieve that. We're just trying to get out of the pattern where we say, we're doing everything wrong, nothing will ever work, I'll never be good enough. We get into that absolutist mentality. How can we change that?
Yeah, so say hello if you're tuning in. Are you so excited about this message? And if overthinking is something that you struggle with, or negative thinking, then I want you to take a minute or 30 seconds, take a deep breath in. Our breath is one of the most powerful tools to help us to control our thinking. Okay, someone's calling mama. All right, so we have to use our breath to be able to control our nervous system. So I just wanted you to take a deep breath, to relax yourself, and to ask yourself, where do I keep finding negative thoughts? In what area or what same repeating pattern or what thought do I keep thinking that's negative? Where is that for you in your life? Because here's the thing, awareness is the first step to change. So once you become aware of the negative thinking, that's when you can begin to apply our NOPE method.
Yeah, so the NOPE is just the way when the negative thought comes in, you go, nope. And so the N starts for notice when you slip into negative thinking. Like Britt says, you've got to be aware of it. So many of our habits are totally unconscious, and so we just move about. You know, it's great that we're habitual if we're doing habits that help us, but being habitual can also be a massive downslide because if your habitual stuff is always negative, you're going to constantly slip into that.
And negativity is such a toxic emotion or state to be in, because once you start down that negative spiral, it begins to go faster and becomes easier. And so many of us are comfortable with that feeling that we continue to go down this negative pattern. And then that's when, like Chris said, the negative habits that start to come along with it start to emerge. So the second thing you want to do is the O in our NOPE series, or whatever it's called. What is that?
Framework.
A framework, an analogy?
Framework.
Is it an an anagram? I don't know. Whatever. I'm not an English major here, but the O stands for opposing the thoughts. So when you notice that you have a negative thought, now we're asking you to challenge that thought. Ask, where did this come from? What does this represent? What does this really mean? Is there an underlying message? And then begin to counterbalance by asking yourself, where can I find the silver lining in this experience?
Yeah, challenge the hell out of it. Challenge your beliefs. If you want to challenge anything, challenge the fact that you can't get it right. And say, no, there's other times I've gotten stuff right. I've learned how to do things before. I've recovered before. I've gone through crappy stuff in life and still been fine. And when you start doing that, you start coming from a place where you can realize that there is not hopelessness. When Britt said that we take the negative thought and then we harp on it and we harp on it and we continue down that path, that's what leads to depression. That's what leads to hopelessness. That's what leads to anti-life feelings.
So true. And you have the power to change that. Just as you have the power to create negative thoughts, you have the power to create positive thoughts. And that's what the P stands for, is prioritize your positive thinking so that you can start putting these phrases or thoughts or even just gratitude at the forefront of your mind so that what you focus on expands. So if you're focusing on negative thinking, you're going to draw more of those experiences into your life that prove you right. And the same is true for the positive. So if you focus on the positive or appreciating, which means to make more of, to have gratitude, then you'll begin to attract more of those positive experiences into your life.
Yeah, the way I really like to do positive stuff is through visualization. If you'll notice, a lot of times when you're worrying, you're thinking about what's the worst that could happen. How can I project myself out into the future and imagine the worst case scenarios? That's how we get on the negative path. Well, on the positive path, it's just the opposite. And remember, all this again is just habitual thinking. It's something that you've practiced. So when something comes up, you automatically go into a default mode. And so what you want to start doing is practicing thinking about, well, what's the best that could happen? Hell, if everything went right, what would that look like? And what steps would I have to do in order to make sure that happens? And that will put you on that positive train. That will get you into the habit of thinking positively.
Your imagination is one of the most powerful tools and resources that you have for creating things in your life. So if you're constantly, like Chris was talking about, focusing on the worry or visualizing yourself failing or what you don't want in the future, if you haven't learned already yet through law of attraction, you begin to attract that to you. So it's not only our thoughts, but the images that we're making and the feelings that we're conjuring up while we're making these thoughts, right? Because our emotions are what are like a beacon for energetic, like magnetism, right?
Yeah.
So the E in our NOPE system on how to stop negative thinking is to eliminate the triggers. So what triggers your negative thinking? Is it when you get in the mirror? Is it when you're around certain people? Is it when you scroll on social media and stare at everyone else's life? What triggers your negative thinking?
Yeah, you have to be massively aware of this, and then you have to reduce that as much as possible. When we first started, I said, what if you could just reduce the negativity in your life by 5 to 10%? And so if you know what triggers are setting you up, if you know what's actually happening that's really setting you off, you can say, you know what? I'm going to slow that down a little bit. If it's a person, maybe I'll see them 10% less. Maybe I'll think about them 10% less. Whatever that is for you, start trying to eliminate as many of those triggers as possible. And that way you can easily and automatically get to that 5 to 10% more happiness. And notice how much better that feels. When you're happier, you make different choices. You meet different people. You have new experiences because you're not walking around with a rain cloud over your head.
Mm-hmm. So I want to know, are you aware of the triggers that are setting you off and putting you down a negative thinking spiral? If so, leave that in the comments below, because like we talked about in the beginning, the notice, when you become aware and you actually voice it and put it out there, it becomes so much easier to change it. It's no longer looming over you like this scary dark cloud or this, I don't know, like fear gets such a big, it gets all this spotlight, but it's really just bullshit, and you're just making up negative stuff, and you can make up positive stuff. So awareness is the key to make those changes. So where are your triggers that spark your negative thinking? Leave that in the comments below, and don't be shy. Allow yourself to be honest and to be vulnerable, because in that vulnerability, you are finding your true strength.
Yeah, it's just a way of figuring out how am I thinking and what is making me think that way, and then how can I pick something different. That's the challenge here. And because it's habitual and because so much of the stuff is unconscious, you're going to have to be very aware. And Britt made a really good point early on about the breath. You know, a lot of people want to disengage from negative thinking, and the way that you do that is by moving into the present moment. A lot of times negative thinking has to exist in the future, and so our mind needs that future to create it. That's how we have worry, that's how we have anxiety, is imagining poor future decisions.
Or even replaying the past,
or replaying the
wishing
past.
they could change it, which you can't, so stop thinking about it. And yeah, really, that's it. You're either projecting out into the future what you don't want, or you're replaying the past that you can't change.
Yeah, so notice if you can live in the present more often. And always the present is just about listening to your breathing. If you can hear your inhales and exhales, you're here, you're present. And so the second that you get into that really crappy mentality, use the NOPE method. Just tell yourself, nope. Not doing that. I've noticed it. I'm going to oppose it. I'm going to prioritize positivity, and now I'm going to eliminate the triggers. And once you've done that, see if you can get that 5 to 10% happier.
I'd love to know what your biggest aha from this NOPE method on how to stop negative thinking was. So in the comments below, let us know your biggest takeaway and aha moment from today's training. We'll recap really quickly on the NOPE method to stop negative thinking. And N stands for notice when you slip into that negative downward spiral.
Yep, and O, you're always going to oppose the thought.
Yep, P is to prioritize your positive thinking and use visualization to imagine what you do want in your life.
And E is to eliminate the triggers.
Yes, thank you so much for tuning in to the Elevated Life series. If you have any questions around how to stop your negative thinking, or literally anything else, because we love talking about all topics here on the Elevated Life, leave it in the comments below or shoot us a private message, and we'll be happy to cover your topic next Friday on the Elevated Life series. We are so thankful for your support, and we look forward to seeing you guys next week. Bye.
Bye, guys.